Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Oh, boy, am I excited for today's guest in the bullpen. We've had some incredible guests, but none can top this one. Browns quarterback Joe Flacco joins me here in the bullpen. So excited to talk with Joe. I know you're so excited to hear and see Joe. I'm getting into everything. Things that, plenty of people have asked him about, but things that nobody's asking him about. I got it all covered with Joe Flacco coming up. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Joe Flacco next.
You're watching Adam the Bull on the Bet Rivers Network.
All right, welcome to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. On today's show, we have a special guest. Probably the most special guest we've ever had in the 10 months now that I've been doing this podcast. He took Cleveland by storm. And if you would have told me that any time in the last 15 years or whatever, I would have said you're out of your mind. But here he is, the quarterback of the Browns, Joe Flacco. Joe, I mean, think about it. If I would have said to you any time in your entire playing career before this year, you're going to take over Cleveland and be the most popular guy in the city of Cleveland, you would have said that I was crazy, or anybody that said to you was crazy, right?
Of course. It's crazy the way things happen, you know. Man, though, it was a lot of fun. I wish we were still out there, but it was a fun couple months for me, that's for sure.
You know, I don't know. Probably other people have thrown these stats at you before. But you are tied for second all time in wins at Cleveland Brown Stadium. Did you know that?
You know, I've heard people throw stuff like that out there
Yeah.
before, and I wasn't sure in what context they meant. Like, okay, like as a
No.
as a visitor, or
Yeah.
it's just in general, huh?
Yeah. Well, the stadium opened.
And how old's the stadium?
So the stadium opened in '99 when the Browns came back, right?
Right.
And actually, do you know who you tied with for second on the all-time list?
Man.
I'll tell you this. You played against him a lot, and he didn't play for the Browns.
Really?
Yeah.
He did not play. Oh, Ben.
That's right. In fact, you guys, technically your record's better because you both have 12 wins in Cleveland, but he played one more game. He had a tie here. I think it was opening day, if I remember, a few years back. So Baker's got the most at 19. But it's just crazy because outside of Ben, fans in Cleveland rooted against you like he was the only guy they disliked more. Because at least you were a nice guy. He just rubbed everybody the wrong way. I'm kidding. I don't know that. But the fans were more irritated by Ben. But you actually have, your record against the Browns is absurd. I think you're like 18-2 all time. And even with the Jets last year, you destroyed them. And the whole thing's amazing. What a story.
You know, it is. It's kind of it is very interesting to me just how the city embraced me, or at least how I felt like they did. Obviously, we're all the years that I was playing there, we were a division rival and things like that. But yeah, it is funny how it works out that for whatever reason, they didn't necessarily hold that against me for all those years.
Right.
And look, I think they see it for what it is. It's kind of like a new chapter, and you got a guy that's coming in and wants to help the team win. And if that's the case, then why wouldn't we? We're rooting for the Browns ultimately, right. And if he's part of the Browns, then we're going to do it. So, a ton of respect for the people there that they were able to kind of put that aside and root for the team, but also myself the way they were able to.
It's funny, Joe, because Cleveland, like I'm not born and raised in Cleveland. I'm from the same neck of the woods. I know you grew up in South Jersey. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. But I moved to Cleveland in 2011 and did a radio show, and now I do a podcast and TV show. But the people of Cleveland are this is not a transient city. New York City, right. There's people from all over the place. Same with Philly, right. A lot of different cities. But Cleveland, most of the people here are from here, and they don't usually embrace outsiders that quickly. It takes time to make inroads. And so, yes, you're winning for the team. I get it. But they didn't, they've like adopted you. I'm telling you, Joe, I've been covering this team for 14 years. I have never, Baker was close, but it took him a little longer, and he was drafted. But I have never seen a fan base embrace a player of any sport in this town in 14 years as quickly as they embraced you. So I know I'm going on and on about it, but it
Yeah,
had to be really
listen, I
special.
mean, you say like these towns on the East Coast are transient, but at the same time, there is like where I'm from, man, it's people that are from
Sure.
here. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why the East Coast fan bases tend to have super, popular, super rabid fans. Like, the Eagles are have a crazy fan base because
Yeah.
it's generations of people that have kind of rooted for them. And I think Cleveland's similar in that area, in that way, just like you said. It's very blue collar generations of families that have been there.
Yeah.
And there's a deep rooted history of rooting for those teams. And, maybe it's part of that just the town that I came from is probably pretty similar to a lot of the towns in Cleveland.
Mhm.
And maybe there's just that you can kind of just feel that it's something like that. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Not obviously, I don't know if people there want to hear that there's similarities to Cleveland from like a little East Coast town, but there's probably a little bit more hate here in Jersey. I probably have a little bit of that in myself. People in Cleveland are probably a little bit more kind, but there is a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And just the types of people, tough blue collar people that you know love to go out and enjoy their
Right.
Sundays, and it definitely makes a great environment. Those types of people, those types of communities make for unbelievable environments to play football in. I think East Coast and those few Midwest teams, they just tend to have awesome environments on
No doubt.
Sundays, and it's a lot of fun to play in them.
100% true. About 2 months ago, we had Casey Keeler for the obviously you know who he is, but
Yeah,
for the fans who
yeah,
don't know, he was your coach in college, and he came on our TV show, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, and we asked him. In fact, he said to us that when he said that there was one time he was talking to you, I think you'd just been drafted, or it was around that time, and he said to you that, hey Joe, someday I'm going to be talking to a youth group, or I'm going to be talking about, and they're going to say to me, tell me about Joe Flacco. And he said that you said this quote, he said, I am not afraid to fail.
right.
And that really struck me when he said that, because so many quarterbacks are timid. It doesn't, I shouldn't say timid, that's too strong. So many quarterbacks, if they throw a pick, I'm not making that throw again. There are a lot of quarterbacks like that. And we also had Bernie Kosar as a regular on our TV show, and he said, and he was going nuts, and he's like, hey, Joe, he throws a pick, it doesn't matter, it's off to the next play, because he played like that too. And I think people obsess about, oh, it's an interception. Yeah, it's a negative play. Nobody wants an interception. You don't want to throw an interception. But you can't have the greatness, the great success, the touchdowns if you're not afraid to fail. And I thought that really stood out in your
Yeah,
ability to
listen.
succeed.
Yeah, listen, I wish those picks didn't bother me. I put on a brave face and
Yeah.
hope that it translates in some way. Hopefully, I trick my body into thinking that they didn't matter, but
Yeah.
they do. But it's funny because I remember saying that a lot when I was younger because I was a guy that I ended up playing when I ended up starting the first game of my rookie season and played since then. So I think when you're put in that situation, you can't have that fear of failure. You have to be able to have the mindset to fight through some things that are not going to go your way. This league will eat you alive if you can't learn to deal with those things. And that doesn't mean that you accept it. It just means that you're not afraid to to go out there and make the decisions that you have to make to win football games. And on the off chance it doesn't go your way, you have to be mentally tough enough to deal with that. And you have to, and that's supporting cast, that's everybody. There's a lot of people that are involved in that. But in order to succeed in this league, you're going to at some point have to deal with some kind of hurdle. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to have a losing season. You might win a bunch of games and always do that. You might be one of the few guys that gets to do that all the time. But that doesn't mean you're not going to deal with your own hurdles mentally, physically, whatever it may be. So I just think that you have to have that mindset in order to be able to deal with tough times. And I think if you trick yourself into thinking that you can do something, then, eventually you just do it. You can, if you don't believe you can do it, believe me, nobody else is going to. So you at least got to have those conversations with yourself, to give yourself a fighting chance.
It's a great point because I'm not going to be a phony about it. Like when you came to the Browns, I'm like, Joe hasn't played all year. He's almost
Yeah,
39 years old. Like I didn't think you'd be terrible, but I didn't
right.
think you were going to be great. I didn't think there's no way I thought you could play that well, but you believed in yourself. And if you're not, you're right. And you did it and you played great.
Yeah. Listen, it's awesome the way it worked out because you can come in and play really, you can play great football, and it doesn't mean you're going to win the football games all the time and go on a little bit of a run like we did. That just playing good football doesn't guarantee that. It guarantees that you played good football, and the more you do that consistently, then the more chances you're going to give yourself and your team to win the game. But it doesn't guarantee those things. Like nothing's guaranteed, and it definitely is something special about the way it did work out. But for me, it was really trying to keep myself focused on just doing the right thing, play to play, game to
Right.
game, not worrying about the outcome. As much as we all want to go win football games, when you're
Yeah.
stressing about the outcome before the game even starts, you're just paralyzing yourself in some manner. And I think we
Mm.
all do that. It's hard to not do that to some extent, but you have to have little things that kind of distract you from thinking about that. And obviously, once you take the field and you start running the plays and doing all those things, it kind of happens naturally once you've done it enough. But there is a fine line there, between you know obviously wanting to win football games, but when the competition starts, you have to be able to put that out of your head and just take it play by play, especially in a sport like football. There's so much that's reliant on all 53 guys. All 45 guys or whatever it is that dress up on Sunday, they have an impact on the game, and you have to trust each and every one of those guys that they're going to do their job. It's not up to any single person. It really is that team sport that relies on everybody. Your defense has to play well. Your offense has to play well, and that doesn't just mean that they're not really just a unit. They are a unit, but each and every single one of those 11 guys on each side of the ball has to do their job in order for the other person to be successful. So, I think there's ways that you can look at that and take the pressure off of yourself and realize, hey, we're in this together. So let's remind ourselves of that and go out there and have fun, and do our job. If we all do that, then we can then the outcome will take care of itself.
I think that attitude certainly rubbed off on the rest of the team. I think the team had a good attitude even before you got here, but I think it got even
Hmm.
better when you joined the team. Another thing Coach Keeler said, speaking to your leadership, he said that when you got drafted, he talked to John Harbaugh, or you said Harbaugh was going to call him and ask why you weren't a captain. And he talked about, hey, we had an offensive lineman and a running back, and these guys were there a little longer. He said, but don't mistake it. Joe was the team. This is Joe's team. That not was the team. He said, this is Joe's team.
Right.
And you should, and when I thought about that, and then a couple of weeks later, one of my buddies, Jason Lloyd, who's in the locker room, covers a team. He was talking to, I can't remember if he was talking to Wyatt Teller or Joel Bitonio, but apparently there was a moment on the field where Wyatt was complaining to the refs or something, and you basically said, "Hey, Wyatt, get the hell over here," and he said,
Yeah.
"Yes, sir," and he just kind of ran back in. And it showed you leader. Is that true? Did it happen that way?
Those stories are true.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny the way people want to look at leadership and then what it actually is and what it actually is to the guys in the locker room. And yeah, I mean, listen, I was a transfer into Delaware, and they had so many guys there. So it's a unique situation. Um, but like I said, going back to it's funny what people think of as leadership. And listen, everybody's going to do it their own way, but I think when you talk about it in public and everything like that, you always want to gravitate towards guys that you hear speaking all the time and doing all those different things, and they're leading the speaking in the huddle on the field, and they're giving pregame speeches this, and I think that's what people want to gravitate towards, but that's not. And then when you watch a movie, obviously the great leader always has some great speech,
Mm.
but it's not necessarily about that. It's becoming it's being able to make the team kind of become one, and everybody kind of feels that, and you're just a part of it. Like I'm not in there trying to be like the guy. I'm just trying to be myself, and I want to gain respect from my teammates. And that there's a lot of things that go into that. So like even the story with Wyatt, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's just common sense. I'm going to do that. He's over there. He was on the numbers. I think he was on the opposite numbers of where we were huddling, and he was yelling. He's yelling at the ref and yelling at the other teammates, and that he's a fiery guy. I
Oh
mean, I
yeah.
noticed that right when from the first, I was on the sideline in Denver, and I saw him kind of going at it with everybody that he could possibly go at it with. But there was like 14 seconds left on the play clock. I'm like, dude, you got to get over here. I got to call this play, and then we got to go run it. Like, what the hell are you doing? Um, but dude, I mean, he was awesome. And you know what? The best part about that is it nobody takes offense to that in any way, because
Right.
I was in a short time able to develop relationships with these people, with these guys, that became pretty special pretty quickly. So that when that stuff happens, it's a great story afterwards that we can all kind of sit around and laugh in the weight room with, with the next day. But yeah, leadership is, it's one of those things. It can be done in a lot of different ways, and I don't necessarily think that everybody on the outside gets to see exactly how it is done, unless you happen to be one of those people that wants to give all those speeches and do those things.
Right.
And that's definitely not me. I'll have conversations with guys and we talk a lot, but I'm not going to be one to, unless unless it just comes, spontaneously, that I'm not going to be one of those guys that gets in front of, the locker room and gives 800 speeches a day. And listen, when I first came into the league, we had guys that were really good at doing that.
Yeah.
And that was part of their personality, and that's why they were good at it. So I didn't even need to become somebody that I wasn't, because we already had those kind of people.
Joe, you seem to thrive in this system that Kevin Stefanski has. And Kevin, you know how it is in any city. Coaches get criticism all the time. I happen to be someone that has been a big defender of Kevin Stefanski. I'm a big fan of his. And I would like to see him get an extension this offseason. I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened already. Can you talk about how you developed what seemed to be, from the outside, great chemistry with Kevin Stefanski so quickly?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say when, like, we obviously came in there and were able to put up some points and do some good things. So it's just one of those things that people ask about. But it's probably tough to put your finger on it exactly. I mean, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Kevin. I mean, I'm just coming in here and like we talked about earlier, I'm just trying to do my thing, run the play. Like, hey, yeah, that's what you want me to do. Okay, I'm going to try to do that. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to him for being able to, get a comfort level for me pretty quickly, and kind of feel what get a feel for what he thinks I'm good at, and go out there and call it that way. And then, I think we were pretty aggressive. We probably didn't run the ball great down the stretch. And I think you got to give credit to him for kind of being aggressive and just doing what we were doing well. But listen, I mean, Kevin has I spent 1 year with Gary Kubiak and had a great time with him. And I think Gary was probably a little bit of a piece of why I ended up coming to Cleveland, because he was able to talk to them about, who I was, and things like that. So, definitely, I'm sure he was like I said, somewhat responsible for the fact that I ended up coming there. But, you know, I think the fact that I could trust Gary, that Kevin was a really good person and a good football coach, it definitely allowed me to come in there with a very positive attitude towards how this thing was going to go. And I think he probably had the same feeling. We probably both went into it with a good mindset, thinking positive thoughts, and then it just grew from there. I think once again, though, I think he's the guy that's calling it, and he's the guy that's putting it together. So a lot of credit goes to him.
Joe, I need to talk about the art form, because you are a master at the play action pass, right? This is a thing. Now, I've always been curious about this. I'm some slappy who never played football, so I don't know the answer. Only guys like you know the answer. How important is the quality of your running game, and how important is the quality of your running back, if at all, in terms of the play action fake?
I do think there's importance to it. I do think there's a lot of importance to it. But at the same time, it's not. Look at us. It's not. I think the better your running game is, and the more yards you're getting from it, then the you're going to get better defenses to run those plays against. Like a lot of the times when you're running play action passes, the routes that kind of go behind those are better versus defenses that are loading the box for the run. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think a lot of the times, no matter if you're running the ball well or not, you can fake to the running back and you're going to get some kind of action. You're going to get some kind of pull from the linebackers. But when they're just sitting back in soft zones anyway, sometimes it doesn't matter as much. But when you can get the run game going, now you get that same kind of action out of the linebackers and everybody like that. And you also have the right kind of structure behind it within their coverage to really kind of take advantage of it. So I think that's where the run game kind of comes in, is it because it forces teams to really, to really have to pay attention to it. They have to start doing different things if they want to stop the run, and that's when the play action really comes alive, because the routes behind that are more designed usually to take advantage of those types of defenses. If you're just doing play action, yeah, it's going to probably, like I said, get that action out of the linebackers and all those things. But if they're playing, a softer defense because they don't really have to load the box against the run, then maybe some of the routes that you're calling with those play action passes aren't quite as good at picking apart those defenses. So you have to start checking the ball down more, and you don't get some of the big chunk plays, which is okay. But I think it really comes alive when you obviously start to get those 20-plus yard plays on the play action, which really comes against defenses that have to load the box against the run. So I think that's where the importance is. I think if you were to turn on a tape and you were to just watch the play action passes, I don't know if it really matters too much whether teams run the ball well or not. You're going to see defenders react to the action. Now it just becomes, okay, what are they actually playing behind that? And if you can, like I said, if you can really force them to play those defenses where they have one safety and all of a sudden he's cutting things from the post, now you can take advantage of it and really throw the ball down the field.
Joe, everybody in Cleveland wants you back. I mean, I haven't met a single person that does not want Joe Flacco on the Browns. I remember I did a radio show for 12 years with a guy who played in the NFL for a short period of time. I don't know if you know him, Dustin Fox. He got drafted by the Vikings in 2006. I want to say won a national championship at Ohio State. Anyway, he was in Buffalo briefly for a year, and he said to me that when he was in Buffalo, there was a backup quarterback on the team. I can't even remember his name. I don't even think he played much in the NFL. But the guys knew, or at least the guys thought in that locker room, that guy was the best quarterback. Bills didn't have a good starting quarterback. I don't remember who it was. And in a way, there was some frustration that guy didn't get a chance. Deshaun Watson's been brought in here. Obviously, he's been paid a lot of money. We know what he did in Houston. He was phenomenal. He's had his moments here. Is there a concern that if you were back here and Deshaun struggled, that maybe there'd be guys who say, oh, Joe played so great for us last year. Why don't we put Joe in there? Or was you not, or players not worried about that kind of stuff? Is that just stuff that mostly gets talked about in the media and it's nonsense?
Yeah, listen, I mean, you would hope that the players aren't worried about that stuff. You know, the focus of the player is to go out there and play good football. And, listen, the quarterback's a unique situation because there's only one of them that plays, but the rest of the team, you got to realize they're used to dealing with guys going down or guys getting switched in, because a lot of the positions, I mean, look, linebackers have 3-4 guys that are rotating, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
The linemen are truly like a unit, like there's always guys going down and having to come back and step up. So like they're able to, so most players, like, I just don't think they're focused on that kind of stuff. They're just focused on winning football games and playing good football. So you wouldn't think that would have, any real effect on most of the guys.
And your relationship in the quarterback room with the guys, was that good?
Yeah, you know what? The quarterback rooms are always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think they're probably a little bit of a unique situation because there is one of you playing,
Right.
and even when some guys are waiting in the wing or they're in their first year or second year, listen, everybody wants to play. There's always a little bit of
Sure.
taste of that. Even the way I came in this year, it's like you're walking into a room where everybody in there had started football games, so they have to, we all probably have to put our egos aside at some point. And even though we feel like we should be the ones playing, I'm sure it wasn't easy for PJ and Dorian to kind of watch me come in, and now all of a sudden I'm the one playing when they had been able to start games and
Yeah.
have some success this year. So even with that room, where the one guy is playing, like it at the end of the day, guys do a really good job because we spend so much time together. We have good relationships. So as much as we want to be the guy out there, we also have really good relationships with these guys. I mean, we spend a lot of time together and have a lot of laughs and stories and just, grinding with football, all those things. So, we want to see those guys go out there and be successful, even if we feel like we're the guy and we
Right.
could be the guy, you still want to see your teammate and your friend go out there and play good football.
Do you think Deshaun could succeed in this system? I mean, he obviously has most success playing more out of the shotgun in Houston, and so
Yeah, for
it's been
sure.
an adjustment.
Listen,
But you think he could do it?
yeah, for sure. Listen, any system has the ability to cater a little bit. You know what I mean? Like there's going to
Sure.
be your foundation of stuff, but everybody has something that they do uniquely, well to what, to them. And I think every system also has the ability to cater to that a little bit. It's
Right.
not going to look exactly the same with him as it does with me. Um, but that doesn't mean that there's not room for that kind of stuff.
Last serious question, Joe, and then I want to end it. And I really appreciate your time with some fun questions. Were you surprised when you heard that the Browns had let a couple of offensive coaches go, including OC Alex Van Pelt, when the season ended? Or are you just
Yeah,
used
I
to that?
was. I think everybody was probably surprised. I mean, but I haven't talked to those guys, and you never really know what the motivation is, and
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, that stuff happens every year. You just hope that those guys go get a great opportunity for themselves, so that they can continue to do what they love to do. But yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize it happened. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and he mentioned it to me. So I was definitely surprised. But like I said, you never quite know what the motivation for those types of things are.
All right, Joe, some rapid fire fun questions to end it, okay? You
Okay.
ready? Best pizza, South Jersey, North Jersey, New York City, or Connecticut? What do you got?
Wow. Well, listen, I'm partial to South Jersey pizza slash Philly pizza, but I
Yeah,
have heard that Connecticut is like the king of pizza for sure.
allegedly.
Up in New Haven.
Yeah,
I I've been up in New Haven and I don't think I've actually had the pizza, but it was probably 15 years ago. So I wish I
yeah.
actually tried it. But I've heard really good things about that.
All right, Coach Keeler said one more. He said that you were before your senior year. Apparently you wanted to play baseball because you weren't
I
sure you
do
were going
that,
to be
yeah.
drafted. How good a baseball
Well,
player would you have been?
probably not very good. Yeah, he loves telling that story, and he
Yeah,
loves adding that, like, the context to it of like, oh, I didn't, no, it was one of those things I wanted to do coming out of high school if I had
yeah,
the opportunity to, and I kind of ran it by him. He
yeah,
pretty much shot it down right away, and at that point I didn't really care.
yeah.
I was probably happy that he shot it down because I really want to go out there and spend another 4 months traveling around doing this when I could have just done some spring ball and gotten
Right.
ready for the season. So it's funny the context he puts it in. He just likes to juice the story up a little bit.
I get that. Coaches can embellish. All right, you're in a hot dog eating contest. It's a 2-on-2 hot dog eating contest. What current Cleveland Browns teammate would you pick to be your partner?
Wow. Oh man. Your first thought is one of the linemen.
Yeah.
Um,
But
those guys
when
are
you
used to
see
eating Joel. You pick Joel or Wyatt
Yeah. But the only thing
and
I'd
go
say to
run with it.
that, Joe, and do you watch the hot dog eating contest on 4th of July?
That's what I was thinking.
It's always
That's what I was
skinny guys
thinking.
that win. It's never big
They're not.
guys.
Yeah, they're not the big guys. I
Yeah.
agree with you. It's like that's my first thought, but I don't
Yeah.
know. You know, maybe I got to throw Newsom in there and get one of these corners in there and see what happens.
I think now the second question, this is the most important. If you had to do tag team alligator wrestling, now I think maybe Wyatt Teller comes in for the alligator wrestling. What do you think?
Well, yeah, Virginia boy,
Yeah.
who's definitely into that stuff. I could see that.
Yeah, and last thing, when you grew up, I assume you were a Philly sports fan, or did you root for any New York teams?
No, it's all Philly sports. It's all Philly sports in this area. I I don't know if I necessarily, I don't think these guys were my favorite teams. I grew up like just idolizing different players,
Yeah.
as a kid. So, um, I don't know if like the Eagles or the Phillies or the Flyers, the Sixers were necessarily favorite teams of mine, but
Right.
this area is crazy Philadelphia fans. That's what we are here. So.
Little fun fact, I was doing play-by-play for the first professional home runs for Chase Utley and Ryan Howard in the minor league.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, dude, that was a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun now. The team is a lot of fun to watch now. I mean, I throw their games on all spring and summer, and we'll sit around the couch, from the fifth inning on and watch them. And they're a really fun team to watch. And obviously they've gone pretty far the last couple of years, so it's been exciting for my kids and myself to sit down and watch those games.
Last thing, are you definitely going to play this year? I mean, or at least do you definitely want to play this year? I can't imagine why teams wouldn't want you to play after the way you played this year.
Oh no, for sure. I'm playing. Like you said, as long as I have the ability, the chance to, I'm out there.
Joe, I took up so much of your time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. It was awesome.
All right, we are back, and that was an amazing conversation with Joe Flacco. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. I got a chance to speak to Joe off the air for about a minute or two. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. I had a lot of fun talking with him. Obviously, this guy still wants to play in the NFL, and the way he played for the Browns, he's going to get another opportunity. Speaking of opportunities, get extra value this football season with BetRivers Squares. Win up to $10,000 in bonus money, $10,000. Bet $10 in same-game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square. That's it for me today. We'll be doing the live podcast Thursday at 6. This is a regular thing. The Bullpen Live every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join me for that. That's it for me for now. Thanks to Brian Monzo for producing. And again, thanks to Joe Flacco for joining me. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the Bullpen with Adam the Bull. Brought to you by BetRivers. See ya.